It's not that common these days to see Republicans and Democrats united on anything, but they were united in their anger against the social media companies, in particular, how they've just done almost nothing to protect young people from the hazards of their products. And there are things that can be done. No, they can't eliminate all harm, but there are things that can be done. And it's culminated in this exchange between Senator Josh Hawley and Mark Zuckerberg, who Zuckerberg continued to deny that his products cause any harm. I'll just set it up before I play you the soundbite. This is what he said. Mental health is a complex issue, and the existing body of scientific work has not shown a causal link between using social media and young people having more mental health outcomes. That's just not true. That is not true. Meta's own internal studies, we know, have proven time and time again. Wall Street Journal analysis of the Meta study showed Meta's own researchers, quote, repeatedly found that Instagram in particular, which is owned by Meta, they own Facebook and Instagram, quote, is harmful for a sizable percentage of young users, most notably teenage girls, but did nothing about it. People inside Meta have been jumping up and down trying to tell Zuckerberg, we do need to do something about this. And he's opted not to because he can make more money if he doesn't. So all of this leads to this exchange with Hawley where Zuckerberg, for the listening audience, does stand up. You can't hear the beginning of the apology because he's off mic, but you'll get the flavor. Watch.
Let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
And this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I think I've already answered this. I mean, these
Well,
are
try
serious
this again.
issues.
Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I view my job and the job of our company as building the best tools that we can to keep our community safe.
Well, you're failing at that. You're a billionaire. Will you commit to compensating the victims? Will you set up a compensation fund
Senator,
with your money?
I think these are
With your money.
Senator, these are complicated
Yes, no, that's not a complicated question.
Senator, I don't think that's my job is to
Sounds
make
like
sure
a no.
we build good tools. My
Sounds
job
like a
is
no.
to make sure that
Your job is to be responsible for what your company has done.
What did you make of it, Mr. Speaker?
Well, I was really reminded of the early days of the tobacco hearings when the evidence was overwhelming that tobacco caused heart disease, caused cancer, and you would have these same kind of executives defending the profit margin of their companies and getting up and saying things that were just patently false. The evidence is overwhelming that particularly for young girls, that the social media that people like Zuckerberg are so proud of is extraordinarily dangerous, has increased the level of depression, has increased the level of suicide, and that these companies have done nothing to reduce that kind of risk. And I don't know whether it's out of a profit motive because he's already extraordinarily rich, or whether it's just out of arrogance. But it's clear that Congress will have a hard time finding a positive way to intervene as opposed to holding hearings. But I do think the pressure is going to build to find mechanisms that protect young people and that recognize that these instruments can be good, but they can also be very dangerous.
That's the problem. And I mean, I'll tell you something. I don't allow my kids on social media, period. Doug and I have made a really clear, hard decision that they're just not going to do it. Not while they're in our house. Not at 12, not at 14. No. And it's so frustrating to me because I look around at so many other parents that I know who talk about how their kids are dealing with severe anxiety, girls in particular, stress, depression, and yet they continue to allow them on social media and to spend hours a day scrolling it. It's like they're just not paying attention. The news is ubiquitous about the link between these apps and depression, in particular amongst girls. So it needs to be a joint effort by the tech companies and the parents. We can't forget their role in it.
Look, these internet institutions are at least as dangerous as drinking. And we've been pretty clear as a country about trying to establish a baseline for when we think you're mature enough. I think we need the same conversation. I think that there are aspects of things like Instagram that we clearly have to appreciate should not be there for people who are 13, 14, 15 years of age. And I think that ideally that'll be done voluntarily, but if it's not, at some point, you're going to have Congress impose rules of the road, just as we've imposed rules of the road for tobacco and for alcohol.
So the thing that the legislators were pushing yesterday was to get rid of 230, which Section 230, which provides immunity to these social media companies, saying you're really just platforms. You can't be held liable for damage that happens as a result of posts on your platforms. And, I've heard a lot of even conservatives say, that's not the answer, more lawsuits, that's not the answer. And how can you really hold a platform liable for, let's say, a defamatory comment somebody makes in the comments section of a post on the Federalist or the Daily Wire, for example? This to me seems like something different. Why can't these parents who sat in that audience holding up pictures of their dead children who died, just to give the audience a flavor, because they ordered, there was a testimony, one kid didn't feel well and ordered a pill off the internet, just a stupid thing to do, but he did it. It was laced with fentanyl. He died. Many of the parents had children who were lured into this, they call it sextortion, where a foreign bad actor poses as a sexy young girl, for example, and says, hey, here's a naked picture of me. Now you send me one of you. And he does it. And then they reveal themselves as bad guys who now have a picture of this boy naked, and they're going to post it everywhere unless he gives them money. And in a shocking amount of instances, these boys wind up killing themselves rather than face the embarrassment of this. I listened to a woman testify at an event I went to 2 summers ago, where she talked about how her son was she went upstairs, it's terrible, and found him hanging. He had hanged himself because he was being bullied by kids on Snapchat who had found a way into a back door that you can easily use with third-party software into Snapchat. No one other than your friends are supposed to be able to access you. But they had, and they bullied this kid literally to death. These are just a couple of the problems with the social media. And some of that really can be stopped, like the back door on Snapchat and a greater crackdown on these sextortion schemes, which are prevalent, not to mention the sale of pills. So they're not doing any of it. I don't know that 230 is going to take care of it, but the immunity that these companies have is troubling. It seems like an antiquated provision for modern day problems.
Well, it is. Look, when I was in the Congress 2 decades ago, we did things specifically to encourage the growth of the internet, because at the time it was a brand new technology. We thought it was important for America to take the lead. And so we took steps. Well, now these are gigantic worldwide companies. Their owners are enormously rich. They have to be held to a different standard. And we've learned some things. I think all of us have been surprised how susceptible young people are to psychologically being beaten up and harassed on social media to a degree that they become depressed. And as you point out, in a number of cases, they commit suicide. There ought to be some accountability, some ability to hold the company liable, at a minimum, some ability for parents to intervene and have easy access to somebody in the company to cut their child off or to track down and hold liable the people who have been doing this. I mean, if the people who are doing the bullying suddenly were held liable and you were able to sue them for the bullying, you would stop a great deal of negative behavior on the internet.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that the social media companies were saying was, we'll make it a blocking app more available to the parents, or blocking mechanism. And I have to give credit to Amy Klobuchar, Democrat, former presidential candidate, who got out there and said, be realistic. These parents, they can't navigate these apps better than the children. And there are so many. If you're going to let your kid do social media, whether it's Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Insta, all these things, You got a different mechanism for each one. Parents are busy. They care about their children, but they have to work. They have to take them to school. They have to maintain their own lives. To try to figure out, the 5 different apps and what the parental mechanisms are, there needs to be some uniform protection. Like, I hate to put it all on like our government saviors to regulate these companies into doing the right thing, but like just to kick it all back to the parents and say, you guys figure it out yourselves app by app is not realistic and it's not working. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. Leo was on a road trip and came across a Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Leo rescued the dog and named him Delta. Sadly, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help, and this inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They have rescued thousands of dogs, cats, and horses too from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, a home. It's dedication and everlasting love to animals. That's Leo's mission and legacy. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions to stay open, and if you would like caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner because there are tax savings benefits there too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and speak with your advisor. We call a dog a man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. deltarescue.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.